So I want to say welcome to you to this 201 Coaches Training. This training is designed to equip you to become a personal transformation coach. In my own personal sense of the Faithwalking journey, there are many components that are important. The 101 retreat is important. The launching of a missional community is important. But in my own estimation of the work that we do, there's nothing that contributes more powerfully to the ultimate success of the formation of missional communities than the effective coaching of someone who is in the personal transformation journey. And so it's a critical component of our overall success, and so it's with a sense of both excitement and with a sense of this being a sacred trust that we welcome you into the journey. I want to begin by distinguishing for you some language so that you'll be able to be clear when you're being communicated with. We actually have two different kinds of coaches in Faithwalking. One kind of coach is what we refer to as a personal transformation coach, and that's what you're being trained for. People who have completed the 101 retreat. They are in the 201 process and really deep in the throes of the personal transformation journey. You're serving as their coach, and so you're a personal transformation coach. Somewhere toward the end of 201 and in the days that follow that, when a person launches or joins a missional community, they get a community coach. And so those distinctions, we have personal transformation coaches and we have community coaches. This introductory video session is simply to orient you to what we're going to be doing, to give you an overview of the process and to help you get started. And so there's some things that I think that you should know. The first thing that you should know is that all the training is done on video so that you can complete the training on your own schedule. You wouldn't be able to watch this video if you hadn't already contacted us and said that you wanted to be a coach, and so you have access to the videos. You're watching the first one. This is one of 7 videos that are a part of the training. From the time you start until completion is 6 weeks. You get to do it on your own time, but one of the requirements is that from the day you watch this video, from today, 6 weeks from now, you've got to complete the video training. You get to do it on your own time, but there is that 6-week limitation. There's 7 videos. They vary in length from 15 minutes to 40 minutes. And each one of the sessions is presented by one of our Faithwalking head coaches. I'm going to be doing 2 of these, but there'll be other Faithwalking head coaches that you will hear present. They'll present from their own particular style. They have a view of coaching. One of the things you'll learn about being a coach is that you'll develop your own particular coaching style, and you'll get to see some of that in the Faithwalking journey. Some of these coaches you'll know, some of them you won't know, but over time, as you join the coaching community, you'll come to know all of them. So here's how the process works. By now, you should already have downloaded the notebook that goes with this training. When you finish watching a video, then you complete all the work that's in the notebook related to that session. Every coach, as they're presenting one of the training sessions, will say to you, here's your homework out of this experience. And there will be sheets in the notebook, worksheets, templates, questions, open-ended questions to answer, and you do that work before you watch the next video. You submit that work to me. You can either do that by email at jim@missionhouston.org, or you can mail that to me at my home at 308 Bomar, Houston, Texas 77006. So let me say that again. You can either email them to me at jim@missionhouston.org, or you can mail them to me at 308 Bomar, Houston, Texas 77006. You watch a video, you do the homework, you submit it. Once you've submitted it, it doesn't have to be graded or checked. You just submit it, and then you can go right ahead to the very next video. And then you repeat that process 7 times. Once all 7 sessions have been viewed and the homework completed, you have to contact me to schedule a face-to-face meeting with one of the head coaches. This will simply be a review of what you've gotten from the training, and it'll be a chance for you to ask questions that you might have. And so you may want to, in your notebook, keep a place where questions that get raised that you can't ask because there's video training. Well, the place to ask those questions will be when you meet face to face with a head coach. And then when your meeting with the head coach has been completed, you'll begin phase 2 of the training. Phase 2 is some self-directed study that you do. It's the reading of a book and the writing of some personal reflections. Your head coach will give you that book in the face-to-face meeting, and you'll be free to start that. Once you start phase 2, you have 8 weeks to complete that training. So the total from start to finish, it's a 14-week process. You have 14 weeks to complete the process. Because you're in charge of the pace, you can finish it before then. But if you can't finish it within 14 weeks, then you'll need to have a conversation with us, and we'll figure out where we go from there. Okay, so since you've been coached, you know some of how the coaching process works. In this session, the primary thing that I'm going to do is to briefly give you a glimpse of some of the behind-the-scenes logistics of coaching. In your notebook, you will find 2 printouts. One called Coaching Step by Step and one called Frequently Asked Questions of Coaching. Your homework for this session is simply to familiarize yourself with those 2 documents. Read them, make sure they're clear to you. If they're not clear, write notes in the margin that you're going to bring at the end of the process to your face-to-face coach, and you'll be able to get those questions answered there. But here's kind of a step-by-step. You're going to complete this video training, and then you're going to complete 8 hours of self-directed study. You'll be assigned a head coach, and that head coach will support you, encourage you during that 8 weeks of the self-directed study that you do. Once you've completed the self-directed study, then your head coach will work with you to allow you to what we call shadow, means to sit in on or to follow a head coach as they coach someone. So I'm a head coach, and maybe you get assigned to me, and I'm coaching Steve and Marcos, and we have a call for Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock, and you agree you're going to be in on that call. And what you do is at the beginning of the call, we acknowledge that you're there, and then you just listen in as I coach. I'll coach Steve for 20 minutes, and I'll coach Marcos for 20 minutes, and then when we're done and we pray, we'll hang the phone up, but you and I will stay on the call, and you'll get a 15 to 20 minute debrief where you can say what you saw, ask questions about why things went the way that they did, acknowledge what it looked like worked for you or what didn't work for you. Now, I'm using myself as an example. You won't get assigned to me as a coach, but whoever your head coach is, we have 7 head coaches, and your head coach will make sure that you get to shadow 3 head coaches in your training. Once you have shadowed 3 head coaches, then we acknowledge that you're ready to begin coaching. We don't mean that you're a fully mature coach, but we think that you've got enough information and enough experience that you can launch into your first experience. And so the way that works is that when we complete a 201 and we need some additional coaches, Steve Capper will be in touch with you. He will contact you by email. It is very important, I can't stress this enough, it is very important when he sends an email that says we're trying to recruit new coaches, it's essential that you respond to that email. Even if in that moment you're not able to say yes to the coaching opportunity, to say to him, I'm not currently available, is as important to his process as to your saying you are available. But he'll contact you about your availability to coach, and if you agree to coach, then he'll make the assignment, and it's your job to immediately notify the head coach, your head coach. And so again, if I'm your head coach, Steve calls you and says you're going to coach Jane and Susan, then what you do is you call your head coach, you say, Steve Capper has called me, I've agreed to coach Jane and Susan, I want you to know that, because your head coach is going to now shadow you on your on 3 of your first 4 or 5 calls. So in the same way that you were silent on his or her calls, he's going to sit in on your call, or she is, and they're going to listen silently, and then when the call is over, they're going to debrief with you, and they're going to affirm places that you really did well. They're going to make suggestions about ways to improve your coaching, and when that is done, you'll take that feedback and incorporate it into your next coaching call. Your head coach will shadow you 3 times. Occasionally, because of scheduling, your head coach can't be in on a call that you've scheduled, and so you and your head coach will work to get another head coach to sit in on the call. But it's very important when you schedule your call with your 2 coachees. That's a word you'll need to learn. It's not a word that we use very much in our language, but the people that you're coaching, we refer to them as coachees. As you set that call up, that you're in communication with your head coach. Now, after Steve has contacted you, he also has told the people that you're going to coach that you're their coach. And he tells them that it's their job to contact you by a certain deadline. And so you wait for their call or for their email. You note the deadline in your calendar. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But what you do is you wait for them to call, and when they call, you set up what will be the only face-to-face meeting that you're required to have. We do most of our coaching by telephone. Occasionally a coach wants to do something face-to-face, and we have a few coaches that like to do all of it by face-to-face. We don't encourage that, but we allow that. But we do require that your first meeting with your 2 coachees be face-to-face. And so when they contact you, you begin talking with them about availability that you have and availability that they have. When the second person contacts you, then there's a little negotiation that has to take place to find a time. But you schedule an hour and a half, that's longer than the general coaching call, for you to be able to, you can schedule that at a coffee shop, you can schedule that in your home if you want to, you can do that over lunch, and you schedule that first face-to-face meeting where you're going to be able to become acquainted with the people that you are coaching. Now I want to say again, when you talk to them and you set up your coaching call, you notify your head coach so that your head coach knows when you are coaching. Now, if your assigned coachees don't contact you by the deadline, it's the first integrity test. And it's not like we're setting them up for failure. The vast majority of people will call you by the deadline. But if they don't call you by the deadline, then what we want you to do is to call them. And here's the way the call goes. Marcos, this is Jim Harrington. I know that I've been assigned to be your head coach. I know that you know that I've been assigned to be your head coach. And I know that you were told to contact me by Friday at 5 o'clock. Today is Monday at noon, and you hadn't contacted me, and so I wanted to contact you. I wanted to make sure everything was okay, and I wanted to see what happened that you weren't able to meet the deadline. In the very beginning of doing that, what you're doing is you're setting up the coaching relationship where you're going to hold up a mirror when people don't do what they say they'll do when they say they'll do it. There's no rancor in that. There's no anger in that. There's no animosity in that. I frequently say that. I say, there's nothing wrong here. We're not used to being held accountable, and we're not used to sometimes to meeting deadlines. But in this coaching process, that's going to be really important. And so tell me what happened. And then as they talk about that, then I get that cleaned up with them. I let them clean that up with me, and then I go ahead and do the other stuff that I described. Figure out when they can meet, get a face-to-face meeting, and you move ahead. And then the only other thing that we'd say about the coaching process is that it's highly important that you maintain consistency with weekly phone calls with the coachees. You'll set up a weekly phone call. It'll be at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, or 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, or 5 o'clock on Friday evening. Whatever y'all agree to, the consistency of the call is incredibly important. It's important that the coachee makes the call, and it's important that you make the call. We've had some problems along the way where coaches just forgot, or where they had a breakdown and weren't in communication. We expect that there will be breakdowns where a scheduled call can't take place. That's just going to happen. Life breakdowns happen. But when that happens, whoever is responsible for the breakdown needs to take responsibility for getting the call rescheduled. The consistency of that is just critically important, and so take that on as you take on the coaching process. And then finally, the only other thing that we'd say about the coaching process is that as important as the consistency is, as important as your contact with them, as important as holding up a mirror and giving feedback and encouragement, as important as all of that is, what is perhaps even more important is that you're praying regularly for your coachees and for their transformation. that you're asking God to empower them, that you're asking God to grow their courage, that you're asking God to give them wisdom and insight, that you're asking God to help them get unstuck in places that they're stuck, that you're asking God to give you wisdom and insight to see, courage to hold up a mirror when you're afraid to do that, a willingness to listen all the way to the end before you decide what's being said. There's just a whole ton of human stuff that takes place in the coaching process that we really believe gets empowered by the Holy Spirit. And so from beginning to end, covering this experience in prayer. Okay, so the final thing I want to say is, for me, coaching is the most fun thing that I do. It's really hard. It's very demanding. It evokes from me some of the worst and best stuff in me. It confronts my own integrity, and it causes me, as I coach other people, to have to hold a mirror up to myself. And so not only does it contribute to my own transformation, but there is something that is incredibly life-giving when you begin to see someone who's stuck or stopped in a place in their life, in their work, in their family, in their marriage, with their kids, and then you see them get unstopped and really begin to change, to be transformed. There's something about that that's amazingly life-giving, and it's the thing that brings me back over and over again to the coaching. So that's the end of this session. Your homework assignment is there's there'll be the first 2 documents in your notebook about coaching. Read them, make sure they're clear to you, write questions if they're not clear, bring those questions to your head coach at the end of this process. All right, see you soon.